everybody who is participants. I see a long list, which is great. We will be following up on a session that we also did on the 25th of August. And I would love to give you a short summary of that, also as an introduction to this one. Finn, can you give us the next slide, please? Before I do that, a little bit of a few rules for engagement. And I know you can all read, so I'm not going to repeat everything, but I have two very strong requests. One is that if you want to use the chat box, which of course we're happy for you to do, just really use it only for questions and contributions. We know that you're there because I can see all 50 plus of you at the moment. So there's no need to say hello and where you're from. We can see. Because that makes it easier for the ladies who are trying to follow the chat to really look at the questions and the contributions and not have to sort through all kinds of course, very nice messages. So that would be our main request. Please make sure that your video and your microphone are muted. And we'll unmute those people that are going to speak. Having said that, we're going to the next, which is a summary of our previous session. And I want to say thank you to Siwi and the author of this wonderful stuff. I'm not sure whether she's online again, but that would be wonderful. I think we had 4 really big issues to elaborate on more. One is human resource policies. It's really necessary to make sure that we support the women to get new jobs, have careers, can stay in the water sector. And a part of the problem that was mentioned earlier is that one is that there are no real targets there. So how many women should be there? That it's difficult in a lot of cases because of the working conditions, and those are both physical, not the right equipment, and sometimes problems with the working culture. And that means that we lose a lot of women again. I think a second big issue that we encountered was everything that has to do with vocational training and TVET, as it's called. It would be great if we can discuss with those institutions to make sure that there's bigger access, but also more made-to-measure ways of educating. And I think that would probably be a next big issue. And what some of our speakers said is that the parents play a big role. So they're not really encouraging girls and women to go into this type of jobs. So there's another PR thing we need to do. The third one is finance, and I don't have to repeat that. How do we make sure that the money is actually reaching the women's organizations and the women on the ground, not get stuck somewhere? And then, of course, there's data collection. It's both 6 desegregated data, but it's also making use of citizens' data collection. I think those are ones that we concluded from our first session. We will add the conclusions of this session and make sure there is a blog for all of us. And maybe have a quick look at the last cartoon. As soon as technology comes in, women are out, and contemplate on that a little bit. And as Finn was saying, he is the male in our group to help us, but that's coincidence. So having said that, I would like to go to our speakers, and the first one will be Tripti. And Tripti, please start your presentation, and good luck.
Thank you, Asha, for such a wonderful introductions of the sessions. Hi all, I'm Tripti from India, and I'm going to introduce a very innovative solutions which has developed with a lots of contributions from the rural women farmers, and now they are using them. So let's see that rural women saving water resources to the Bongru technology. Next slide. Okay, so first we see that the problems, you all of us are here in water conference, so you must be aware that it is the flood and drought are the major concerns in the water sectors, and it is occurrence very frequently because of the climate change impact. I'm just giving you some figures over here that only 5 million farmers, small farmers, are affecting in India with this drought and flood situation. 6.72 million hectares of the land affected with this situation, and globally 260 million farmers, and I don't know the billions of the hectares of the land. What happens because of the frequent occurrence of the drought and flood? What happens that they could not grow the crops in monsoon season because of the overflood, and they don't have the irrigation water in the winter seasons, so that this is we are living in very high paradoxical situations, like who grows the food for us? Those farmers don't have the food for all over the year, and they don't have any food security, and that's why they have to migrate to the other areas, or maybe in the farming, or maybe in construction sectors in urban areas. And there were so those who have the land, but they are working as a laborers to the other farmers, and big loss is that dignity. Second is that because is of the unsteadiness, the education and health. That is also two important sectors are affected. And in total, I mean, so farmers' suicides in increasing day by day. And in developing countries, particularly India, the cases are remarkably increased. So Bungru here helps. What is Bungru? I mean, now you must have heard that what is Bungru means a big straw. I mean, this is a small straw which we are using for drinking water or any liquid. Similar structures is a big structures. It's in our rural vernacular language. They called us as a Bungru. So, yes. So, what does the Bhongru works? Next slide, please. Hello. Yes. So, Bhongru is basically helping. We have constructed nearly 400 plus Bhongru units in our area, and with the support of the government, nearly 4,000 plus units in the 14 states of India, Ghana, Bangladesh, Vietnam, uh, and in those countries too. And we have reached to the nearly 100,000 farmers. And what happens with this miracle solution? It leads, I mean, when the farmers have the no crops, now they have two crops. So it increase the economic stabilities among the farmers family, less reduce the migration or stop the migration. So all other conditions, socio-economic condition like health, education is improved. And most important thing is that earlier they were the laborers, now they are the farmers. So this provides them the dignified life. Specifically, the women farmers have that dignified lives, and that's why the people are calling that this is an innovation for dignity. Next slide, please. Um, yes, so this is hello. So how I just want to go before that how it works. It works because the land who is waterlogged, it the first we inject the water through the straw into the pipe, and store it into the under the soil stratas. So the land gets water free and the people have the crops in monsoon season, and in the lean season from the same pipe they lifted it out the water again and they grow the crop so that no crops to two crops. How that's why how it works. Now it's coming to the gender gaps, because this is innovation has been developed 9 years period of time, and many women farmers have contributed in it by trial and errors of the period. So we are giving them back after contributions in the forms of giving the water rights. So what we are doing, we are giving the bungru rights, water rights to them, and without water there is no farming. So now the women have empowered a lot because they have increased their stake in economic sections. So this is become a game changer for the women farmers in achieving their increasing their social status. Now what we are doing in future, that 5 million farmers in my things, we are not going to cater that films, but women farmers we are converting them through building their capacities and with the certification programs, and we will convert them as the women climate leaders. So we are focusing that in next 5 years 100,000 women climate leaders will be there, who knows how about the feasibilities of the bungru and technologies of the bungru, and they spread this work in the local area very which is highly replicable. And thus we will address the sustainable development goal of number 1, 2, 5, 6, 13 and 15. So this is our, and most important thing is that we are able to reduce the gender gap at the rural areas, particularly in developing countries, and that's the most achievement. Thank you.
Okay, Tripti, thank you so much. And I think it's very important to maybe elaborate a little bit more later on or in the follow-up of all these sessions, because of the things you said about the land and water rights, the things you did not elaborate yet a lot on the women climate banks, which I think might be a very interesting idea and also in line with what was said earlier. So thank you very much for your insights and your contribution. I now go to Barbara. Barbara, welcome back to us. Oh, and I should say something. Tripti Jain is from India, as she told you, and she's the founder of Narita Services. And I think if we, want to know more about that, we can make sure that happens. And she is a UNFCCC. This is the most terrible acronym we have, but it's Climate Laureate of 2015. Having said that, I'm going to Barbara again. Barbara, welcome back. You were a great contributor to our earlier session. And Barbara works for USAID. She's part of the Africa Women Sanitation Professional Network, and she's going to contribute a second part of her work in her presentation. So Barbara, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Leisha, and good afternoon, everybody. Good morning, wherever you are. It was very interesting to listen to that first presentation, Leisha, and what was going through my mind is the similarities that we are trying to deal with, regardless of which sector we are working in. I think the issue of really putting women in leadership is coming out very clearly, and I think it will be an interesting conversation at the end of this in terms of the similarities across the different sectors. But to stick to my presentation, I'm going to continue where we left off on Tuesday, as Leisha said, and really talk about how are we moving to actualize a narrative in which women begin to occupy a greater space of responsibility and decision making, and particularly within the context of the African continent. May I have the next slide, please? Yeah, so for those of you who have not yet encountered us, just to say who are we as the African Women Sanitation Professionals Network. We are basically a group of African women that have decided to take leadership, and rather than sit back and complain about how we are not being put into different positions or not being given responsibility, we basically said, let's get up and get it done. And so we are really trying to see how we can enhance our own participation and leadership within the sanitation space. So we're not talking about other women, we're really talking about us as the women who are already in this space, trying to take full leadership of our destiny. What is our goal as a network? Our goal is really to increase the number, equip and advance prominence of women in the sanitation sector. And I think this is coming from a background where we know that for a very long time we've been told we are beneficiaries of water and sanitation systems, but we've never been seen as decision makers. So this movement is really about changing that narrative and beginning to go towards taking leadership in these strategic roles that the continent requires to be able to move forward with meeting the universal access to sanitation in particular. We started our activities last year, and so at this point where we are very advanced in terms of formalizing our continent level registration, and we've taken a decision that we will locate ourselves in Kenya for a number of practical reasons. But as we are doing that, we are also laying groundwork to set up the first chapter in Kenya. But at the moment, we are very advanced in establishing our first chapter, which will be in Zambia. And I'm going to spend the rest of my discussion really just giving you some ideas on what we have done or what we are doing in the case of Zambia. And we are really using Zambia as an entry point for us to see how do we make this a reality, you know, beyond just saying that we would like to take leadership. Next slide, please. So in Zambia, we've had the good fortune of being supported by GIZ. The GIZ and KfW have a very active water support program in Zambia. And as part of that, they do focus very strongly on gender. So when we started having these discussions about the network, it seemed to them that it would make sense for us to collaborate so that as they are trying to reach their gender goals, they could also help in strengthening the movement of women being more empowered within the sanitation space. And so we basically agreed that we move forward together and try and see how we can set up this first chapter of the African Women Sanitation Professionals Network in Zambia. So what we're doing at the moment is we are in the process of creating a platform for all women that are working in sanitation. And I'm happy to say that right now we've got a membership of almost between 50 and 60 women. These are all women who are in Zambia or are Zambian in some fashion. And that team is already come together and we've already started creating that platform. And we're just basically working on trying to formalize what that platform really looks like. We are also trying to undertake a baseline. One of the things is that we had an idea that there was an issue here, but we couldn't really quantify how big is this problem. When we say the women are really not active, how bad is it? You know, what is the scale of it? So we've agreed that we will start by doing a baseline to just establish where are these women and what are their issues, and then move forward and develop a mentoring program for women and girls. So again, similar to what the first presenter was talking about, although she was talking from an agric and climate perspective. We are also very keen on looking at sanitation as business. So we would like to identify and support women sanitation entrepreneurs. A lot of the sanitation entrepreneurs on the continent right now are men. But we know there are a few women, so we would like to find those, build those up, and then encourage others to enter into that space as well. And then finally, looking at the young girls, we'd really like to figure out a way in which we can identify and promote girls getting into the sanitation space. So that role modeling that Leisha talked about at the beginning. Next slide. What will success look like? I think when you are come to us in a year's time, what we are hoping that we'll be able to say to you is that, at least in the case of Zambia to start with, we will have more women in leadership roles in sanitation. And this will be both through personal as well as group effort. So There are many positions, whether they are in government or in companies, where women don't even apply sometimes. So we'd like to figure out, as part of that baseline, for instance, why is it if women don't apply? Why don't they apply? And what can we do to encourage them? And in some cases, it might be about advocacy towards government and other people who are employing in the sector. Well, we're really looking, yeah. Well, let's just very quickly. So we are looking that we would have women-led sanitation businesses increasing. We will have more girls attending WASH-related trainings, and then at the community level, also having women-led sanitation and hygiene activities. So the last slide. So in terms of where we are going next, firstly is to establish this network in Kenya, but we are also really looking at establishing and strengthening partnerships. And the ones that I have listed there are basically some of the ones that we are already talking to, but we are really open to partner with others, because one person cannot do it alone. And we really believe that working together, we can deliver this.
Thank you very much, Barbara. Again, thank you. Great contribution. I would suggest that this is a great follow-up also to our previous session. Again, I think the role modeling, the mentoring, the give women the boost to act is an extremely important message that we have to keep sending out, that whatever people tell you, you as a girl and as a woman can play a big role in this. And I would also suggest that we'll follow up on the whole TVET and mentoring issue with the whole network, which is, I think, one of the great aspects of these sessions this week, that we joined so many women that are active in this field, and that it's extremely important that we keep doing that, connecting each other, but also helping each other. Having said that, I'm going to go to Jennifer, and Jennifer is the executive director of the Faecal Sludge Management Association Alliance, apologies. And I think this is something that we lose in a lot of the work we're doing, that people seem to focus us on toilets and drink and forget about what all comes out and what we do with that to make sure that we're still safe and sound. So, dear Jennifer, please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Lesha, for the introduction. And thank you to Trupti and Barbara for your insights as well. Next slide, please. To start us off today, I have an important question to ask you, since we're all working from home in this weird year. How many times do you flush your toilet per day? If you're connected to a flush toilet. For me, I drink a lot of water and coffee, so I probably flush 5 or 6 times a day. If we estimate 5 liters of water per flush, which of course varies on your toilet model, but as an average, that's 30 liters of water every day just for me. That's almost 11,000 liters of clean drinking water I flush down the drain per year, and I'm just a single person household. How many people are living in your household? How many liters of water do you flush every day, every year? Next slide, please. The current sewer system, as we know, requires a lot of resources, both energy and water. It relies on water to move our waste from our toilet to the treatment center, and that treatment process also requires a lot of energy, and it emits gas, both of which have an impact on climate. This shows us the need for innovation. The sewer system is a 200-year-old technology, and we can see how alternative methods to sewers will need to play a huge role in climate mitigation as water scarcity becomes a bigger issue. Fecal management, or FSM, which you can see in this infographic, is an alternative solution to manage human waste. It's the system or process to manage human waste in the absence of a sewer. It starts with capture of the waste in a septic tank or pit latrine. The waste is then removed by manual emptying, vacuum truck, or pump, and then it's transported to a treatment facility. Hopefully transported to a treatment facility, but I don't have time to get into that today. FSM removes the reliance on water to transport our waste. It will be critical in improving sanitation services in a more climate resilient way, but to also increase access to service, which we know is a huge number of people. And we also know women are more likely to be affected by lack of proper sanitation. The FSM Alliance advocates for the wider adoption and implementation of FSM, but key to success is good stakeholder management and an interdisciplinary approach. We need to expand our skill and expertise base to incorporate skills outside of sanitation engineering. And we need to incorporate women as valued contributors and stakeholders at all levels. Next slide, please. The good news is there are already women working in FSM across many levels, from emptying to operating fecal sludge treatment plants, to research, to implementing projects. But what I hear from them is that they find it hard to reach past certain levels in their careers in WASH, and they're frustrated. So frustrated that some have talked about wanting to leave the sector, and some have actually even been given that advice. We can't afford to lose any expertise. We already know there's a capacity gap in WASH. So why aren't women being promoted? Well, there's an emerging discussion on a new term called non-promotable tasks. What are non-promotable tasks? It's work that when it's done well, it goes unseen. It's stakeholder management, project management, coordination, organization, printing, or even scheduling meetings. It's the small things that hold projects together and make them successful. Women are more likely to be asked or volunteered for non-promotable tasks. They're also more likely to say yes or feel guilty for saying no. And this is particularly true in technical fields. We need to relook at valuing everyone's contributions differently and more equally, from the receptionist to the intern to the coordinator, and place more emphasis on soft skills, communication, organization, listening, empathy. These are all key in good stakeholder management. And stakeholder management is critical to FSM. Women have proven they're just as capable, yet fail to reach top positions. We need to look within our own organizations, and we need to change our hiring and promotion metrics to broaden our expertise base and to understand the important contribution of these so-called non-promotable tasks. Next slide, please. So now what? What do we need to do? Well, we need to implement and adopt FSM-based solutions. We need to transition to an interdisciplinary approach to implementation. And lastly, and most importantly, we need to start with our own organizations and look at what are our hiring and promotion metrics and how can we shift those to be more inclusive, and also look at skills that we typically normally overlook. Thank you.
Okay. I think there's two very strong messages in here. And one is that there are jobs for women. We need women because we don't have enough capacity without them. And when they come into the sector, we need to keep them. And I think that's partly resonating with earlier remarks on working conditions and how do we make sure that women enjoy working in the sector. And I also think it's very important that we do look at the whole chain when it comes to sanitation. So not just the toilet, but also how are we going to deal with the residue, and how are we going to reuse it or get rid of it in a good way. So there's still a lot of stuff going on there that we need to elaborate a little bit more. I would like to point your attention of everybody to the message that Francisca from GIZ, Francisca Scholl, shared with us with the links where we will post all the presentations and conclusions and hopefully a follow-up later on. And there was one, I think, persistent message in the chat. How are we going to join you guys? We'll try and figure that out. We already have a few very powerful networks, and I think they can help us with connecting to all of you. We'll try and figure out how to get that information to everybody. And having said all that, I would like to go to Doreen to guide us on the main questions that we received in the chat.
Thank you very much, Lesha, and thank you to the speakers. Thank you to all the participants for being with us here today. First and foremost, I can see from the chat that we have a few questions. The first one from Amanda, which is directed to Trupti. And Amanda asks, could you kindly tell us more about the plans for the creation of the Women Climate Banks? So Trupti, this question is for you.
Yes, thank you. This is a very nice question, Amanda. Actually, I'm trying to, this technology is easy to replicate, and it can be built at the by using the local materials. That's the best part of it. Hence, we want to promote it through the women farmers, involving the women farmers in it. Because why women farmers? Because they don't have the land rights. So we want to give them the water rights and that's the bungru rights. So that which will able to empower them a lot, like our model in Gujarat state in India. So exactly what we are doing, we are organizing a capacity development program certified on women climate leaders. Till that we have tried to do, and that women climate leaders programs will include build their capacities not only in terms of the bungru feasibilities and bungru applicabilities, but they will able to solve their problems at the local level in the agriculture sectors. So they will convert themselves into the micro entrepreneurs. You know, the local farmers will take their services, and the local farmers will pay them about their services. And so that local farmers are deprived of the consultancy, so-called consultancy services which are available in the urban area. Now it will be available at the local area and very low cost. In other sense, the women will convert themselves as micro entrepreneurs, and they have the knowledge, but it was not recognized till date, right? I mean, from the 400 years, they are involved in agriculture sectors, but all the land rights and other rights are with the man. So with their knowledge, acknowledgement will help them to empower and gain their dignity as well as their confidence a lot. So this is the overall concept of the women climate leaders.
Thank you very much, Trupti. That's really interesting, and congratulations on the work that you're currently doing. As you can see, for all the participants, if you have questions to Trupti, you can write to her directly. She has posted her email address, so please communicate with her directly after. We have one more question, actually two questions that are quite similar, from Elizabeth and Faith, also from GIZ, and this is directed to Barbara, and this is in connection to the network and if there's possibilities to extend the African Women's Professional Network, and basically if it can be popularized in other different countries beyond Zambia and Kenya. Barbara, the question for you.
Thank you very much, Doreen, and thank you for those questions. So the first answer is that the network is a continent-wide network, which is just starting in Zambia and Kenya again for practical reasons. Our aim really is that in each country, once we find that space, what has happened with the Zambia one and Kenya is opportunities presented themselves, and as a team we basically said, okay, this opportunity has come, let's maximize it. And I think my request to the women out here, Faith, and anybody else, if you are in Uganda or Malawi and you are thinking would really like this, is point us to those opportunities and let's have that conversation. And I think to the extent that it is physically possible and logistically possible, we will try and move and make sure that we can get these chapters set up in as many countries as possible. Our hope, though, really is that with the support we are receiving from GIZ, that we use the Zambia case in particular to learn and see what things we should avoid as we try and get these things set up. So over the next year, I'm seeing us expanding more and more because we will have had the experience of doing this in Zambia on the ground. But we are really ready to talk to anybody who's out there and looking to start these chapters in the other countries.
Thank you very much, Barbara, and I hope that assures you, Elizabeth and Faith, about the way forward for the network. There's one more question from Amy Cripps. It's quite long, so I will try to summarize it. So basically, Amy asks how we would encourage integration of work within sectors to achieve common goals. I will hand that over to you, Jennifer. Perhaps you have ideas.
Sorry, Doreen, can you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
No problem. How could you encourage integrated work within sectors to achieve common goals? So basically the interlinkages between different sectors and how we can encourage that to achieve common goals.
With sessions like these, bringing the topics together at conferences like this, but I think it also, the easiest thing to do is start with a mind shift. So we all need to think about how we can expand and be more open to collaboration across sectors. Sometimes I think we have a tendency to be overwhelmed, especially this year, and try to stay really focused. But I think it's really through the opening and widening our expertise base and knowing that we can translate skills across sectors to really start to try to tackle these in a more coordinated fashion.
Okay. Any additional questions, Doreen? Because we're almost at the end. Doreen, can you hear me?
Yes, there's a statement from Elizabeth stating that there's a need to know more about non-promotable tasks, but I think we are running out of time, and Lesha, you mentioned that we would have a summary and consolidate some of the key points that are coming from the participants. So I hand over to you, Lesha, to kindly wrap up. Thank you.
Okay, Doreen, thank you very much for helping us with the chat. I had a little bit of a problem with my connection, so I lost some of the chat stuff, but I would think they're in the recording. Yes, ladies, I'm impressed with everybody who is and was online. I will help, and so will my colleagues, Doreen, Shabana, Farina, Ulrike, everybody who helped to pull this together, including our speakers. And again, I'll point you to the message from Francisca to make sure that you can see the presentations and receive the recording after that. So having said that, I think I would like to end with two main conclusions. One, we need to talk to each other more. And this was great over the 2 days to be able to do that. So thank you, Siwi, and thank you, GIZ, for facilitating. And please make sure that we stay in touch and follow up on this. And everybody who wants to add to the conclusions, feel free to email us or post it somewhere and we'll find it. And yes, we do need financial support for all the work we're going to do. And I know there's some organizations that are willing to listen to us and help us, including GIZ. So we'll get back to all of you and we'll keep in touch. And thank you very much for being there, listening to us and contributing. Hope to see you soon again. Goodbye.